So, September being Suicide Awareness Month, um, definitely a very good month, but a very tough month for me. Um, for those who don't know me, my name's Chris. I'm the founder of the Beatties Bros, and suicide is literally how the Beatties Bros came about. So, um, getting rid of one life and starting a new one is kind of what led me here today. uh, about 8 years ago, going through a ton of turmoil, um, personal life, diabetes being just off the rails, couldn't control my blood sugar. Got to the point that because of not being able to control my blood sugars, I couldn't control my emotions. Um, and depression got harder and harder and much darker. Um, Over the course of about a year, I got to the point that I was having suicidal thoughts on a daily basis. Um, and finally, I got to the point that it was the straw that broke the camel's back, and I can't tell you what it was at this point in time, but I made a decision to end my life. And when I made that decision, I'm not sure what was going on in my head. I've unfortunately blocked a lot of that out. But I sat there and I started contemplating how to do it. Um, to the point I looked up how other people did it. And going through all of that, I came to the conclusion the way I was going to do it, and it was going to look like an accident, and um, nobody would have known different. And so I would have left my family a little more at peace, not knowing what I did. Um, Luckily for me, uh, it failed. Of course, that's why I'm sitting here today telling this story. Uh, but the day that it failed, um, I got sent home from work, because what had happened. I ended up the way I was going to go through and do it was overdosing on insulin, and I took an absolutely insane amount, and everybody would have just thought that I had a low blood sugar, which wouldn't have been out of the question, and everything would have been done. Um, Having three other family members that passed away from type 1, it wasn't out of the question, and had thoroughly thought it out to make it easier on my family. And I ended up having an insulin reaction at work that day. Luckily for me, everybody knew about my diabetes. And so an ambulance was called, and whenever the paramedics showed up, the meter they had wouldn't read. It was so low. And luckily, they got me a bunch of dextrose and got me back to where I was coherent and functioning. And unfortunately, my work at the Times policy was, if there was an emergency situation like that, you had to go home. And I begged and I pleaded with my general manager not to send me home, but I couldn't tell him why that situation happened. And luckily enough for me, I got home and my roommate was there. And he shouldn't have been there. He should have still been at work that day. So, whatever power you believe in, that power had my back that day. My roommate, and still my best friend to this day, knew something was up. So we went out and we talked and we walked for miles and hours discussing everything. And at the end of that discussion, he told me something. He told me I was destined to help other people and get out there and be better than I was at that moment. Sorry, it's tough to talk about. But through all that, I ended up finding the diabetes community. And I didn't talk about my suicide attempt, but I started talking about depression and things like that, and how I felt. And I realized that I wasn't alone. And as the years progressed, things picked up. They got better. My life got back on track. And I was doing pretty well, and I got back to enjoying life. But through that, I kept finding more and more guys like myself that were sitting at rock bottom. They didn't know what to do, and they didn't have anybody to talk to. So what I wanted to do was start having fun with diabetes and showing that you could live and survive and thrive while being type 1. And that's where the Beatties Bros came from. From one of the darkest moments there could be to what it is now. And over the course of the past 3 years, even taking the whole time off that I had to take off to handle personal matters and get my mind back to right and get back to where I am today, we've had the opportunity to help so many guys. And there's been so many amazing connections that I wouldn't trade that day that I attempted that for the world, because it gave me the world. I've got 2 beautiful children, and I've got my family in the diabetes community. So, if you're at that point in life that you don't know what to do, you're at that rock bottom moment, reach out, talk to me. There's so many of us that have gone through this, that we've been hurt by life, we've been hurt by disease, you name it. There's somebody out there to talk to. And just make that first initial step saying, I'm not okay. Just saying that can save your life and change your life. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the diabetes community. So if you need somebody to talk to, don't get to where I was. Reach out to me, and we'll get through this. I love you guys to death, and I'm here for you any way I can be.